Hey, so this is a very unusual thing for my videos, having my voice in it. Recently, although this may not seem like a big, achievement for most people, I've recently hit 5 subscribers, which is a very good thing in my opinion. I feel like it is the start towards a better YouTube channel for me in general, and I hope to gain even more in the coming year and whatnot. But today I thought I'd do something a little bit different. Now, sure, I could have just put in text for this, but I felt like having voice would be a little bit better. So I wanted to talk specs, and more specifically, PS4 versus PC, even more specifically than that, the PC that I'm currently building and is in development. I codenamed it the Sleeper 1, mainly just because it's a sleeper type PC. It has not the greatest case, but it's a relatively capable PC, to be honest. So, by the way, this is live gameplay. I'm actually playing the game as I talk. Might not have been the best idea, should have just put audio over the video, but we're already into it, so why not? Anyways, oh. I didn't hit that at all. Anyways, so let's talk PS4. Now, the PS4 has an 8-core processor, a GPU that amounts to about a GT 1030, 8GB of DDR4 RAM, and of course can play most games at 1080p 30 or 60 FPS. Now, the computer I codenamed the Sleeper 1 can pretty much do all the same things except at a slightly higher frame rate. And also, it doesn't have as strong as a processor. Rather than a 8-core, it has a 4-core not GTX, sorry, that's the GPU. But the CPU is a i3-2100, which is not the most powerful CPU by far, but it's enough, The GPU is, as I mentioned earlier, the GT 1030, which is about what the PS4 has. So, in terms of gaming power, they're about equal, aside from the frame rate, as I said earlier. However, the Sleeper 1 has some advantages that PS4 does not, obviously, such as video editing, such as a slightly stronger form of communications as far as applications go, as far as video streaming goes, as far as that kind of stuff. Of course, there are some features that the PS4 has over the Sleeper 1, such as, better optimized games. Games perform a little bit better on the PS4 than they would on a PC. Depending, of course, on what kind of tech you have inside your PC. So, Rocket League is quite an interesting game. Now, this PC is still in the testing phase. I haven't completely configured everything yet. The RAM is, of course, a bit slower. It is DDR3 RAM, as I could reduce price by using DDR3. Of course, 8GB, which is usually standard for budget PCs, but other than that, pretty much everything is the same as you might expect. Just an average LGA 1151 motherboard, just not that great to speak of. PSU, it's a 240 watt 80 plus bronze, nothing new. And besides that, yeah, nothing else special I really want to talk about. Normal USB, normal HDMI, VGA. So, Rocket League is a very well performing game on the PS4. It runs at 1080p 60 FPS, as you can obviously see, or maybe not, considering the PS4 runs at 720p 30 FPS whilst recording. So, like I've said in the description of many of my videos, I will be getting a capture card soon, as that I can record in 1080p 30 FPS or 720p 60 FPS, depending on what any of you prefer. So, Rocket League runs 1080p 60 FPS on PS4. So, what does it run on the Sleeper 1? Well, on average, it's about 45 to 50 FPS at 1080p quality settings. But if I reduce it down to performance settings, we're hitting a 1080p 60 plus FPS, which is very nice. as far as viewing range and whatnot, Rocket League doesn't really have that kind of an issue where like viewing range and, you know, shadows really affect it all that much. VSync, of course, is just a standard thing for most game settings, so it's not unusual that Rocket League has this. Surprisingly enough, you can actually, I don't know if this is a thing for most console games, but you can turn off VSync on the PS4. If I were to go into options, if I were to go into video, yeah, vertical sync, you can turn that off if you really want to. I never really do, because to be honest, I don't see a difference on PS4 as I do on PC. There is a slight difference on PC, to be honest. You know, there is a little bit more fractures in the screen, there's a little bit lower frame rate as far as that goes, but then there's also the advantage of having higher graphical settings, that kind of thing. So this always happens. This always happens. It's always my teammate. It's always my teammate. Anyways, so Rocket League in general performs good on both. To be honest, PS4 version is probably better, but that's mainly just because of the faulty graphics card I have, which if I had something like a 1050 Ti, I'd probably be doing a lot better. Games like such as GTA 5 obviously are just normal. I personally do not have GTA 5, so I can't benchmark it on either of my platforms. But I have seen plenty of benchmarks online for both, and of course GTA 5 runs at 1080p 30 FPS on PS4 with minimal to no FPS drops, and of course no resolution drops. And on i3 2100 GT 1030 system with 8GB of DDR3 RAM, it's running at an average of 40 to 30 FPS on just normal settings, which amounts to about low settings for GTA 5. At 1080p, 720p at high settings, we're getting about, I'd like to say, 35 FPS on average, maybe a little bit more, not quite sure. But it really depends on average how much RAM you have and how good your CPU is, because GTA 5 is a very CPU extensive game, so having a good CPU really comes in handy. The i3 2100 is not the most powerful, so to be honest, a better CPU would really benefit for this game, but it still runs more than playable. A lot of people will tell you that 20 FPS is not playable. I will say anything lower than 25 FPS, definitely not playable. But as long as it's 25 and above, I feel it's playable. I feel it gets good when it's 45 and up. So, of course, other games that are a little bit more demanding, the PS4 handles a bit better than the Sleeper 1. Games such as Black Ops 4, which again, don't have Black Ops 4, but I have seen plenty of benchmarks online of the game, runs a little bit better on PS4 than it does on the PC. PC is running at 1080p 30 to 25 FPS, which again, atrocious for a first-person shooter. I always agree with most people as far as it comes to 60 FPS on first-person shooters. It's almost a requirement. So, of course, that brings up the question, well, does the PS4 run at 60 FPS? On average, the base PS4, which is what I typically play on, it does run at 60 FPS, but sometimes we can see drops into the 40s, and I've seen as low as 35, depending on what scene you're at. Of course, Xbox One, it's where Xbox One starts to come in, because of course there's the PS4 Pro, Xbox One X. As far as the base PS4, more or less the Sleeper 1 and the PS4 are pretty much the same as far as gaming performance goes. Maybe a couple settings are a bit different. PS4 graphics at 1080p are typically mounting to what PC high graphics would look like at whatever frame rate or resolution that the PS4 is running at. So, not necessarily the best matchup in terms of the fact that the PS4 is better optimized for games, most games anyways. But the Xbox One is a little bit more appropriately matched to the Sleeper 1. I feel like they're almost equally matched, except for the fact that the Xbox One actually cannot, and we're talking about the original Xbox One here, the Xbox One actually cannot do 1080p, it's 900p. and 720p upscaled to 1080p, of course. Just like the PS3, Xbox 360, as a lot of people seem to not know, was just straight up 720p. But enough of that rambling. I'm going to get to the last point in this video, which is the fact that the Sleeper 1 and the PS4 have one thing that's in common, and that would be the clock speed of the processor. Now, the PS4 on average has a 2.2 gigahertz clock speed. Now, while the i3-2100 does have a 3.1 gigahertz clock speed, on average it still only runs at about 2.3 to 2.4 gigahertz. The reason this is, I haven't figured that out yet. It's very strange. It should be able to boost up to 3.4, so I don't see why 2.3 would be even a thing that's happening unless you on purposely underclocked it to 2.3. But on average, it seems that's what it's running at, unless you put it in boost mode, of which then it runs at the 3.1, 3.4 gigahertz clock speed that you see on, review sites and YouTube videos and whatnot. So overall, which one is a better deal? Well, the Sleeper 1 costs me about $240 total. The PS4 is running at used $150, refurbished $200, which is a very good price for, how much money or performance you're getting out of this console. In total, the Sleeper 1 would be better depending on what your game preference is. If you really like esports games and lower requirement AAA games, the Sleeper 1 is definitely a good build to make. As I've said many times, the Sleeper 1 is actually a pre-built / custom hybrid. I basically took an old pre-built and I just added some stuff to it. That's basically all I did. So, less of a hybrid and more of, hey, look at me, I took a pre-built and I upgraded it a little bit. I'm so cool. But yeah, the PS4 would be better if you just all around want to play all your games and 1080p 30 FPS minimum. So yeah, my two videos previous to this one, the two videos I did on Onrush, I have stated in the description that there's two modes. There's resolution mode and then there's frame rate mode. I personally like playing at frame rate mode when I'm not recording, but when I am recording, considering the fact that it's 720p 30 FPS, I will typically do resolution mode, because if it's in frame rate mode, then it makes the game look a lot worse. And that's an issue, considering YouTube compression is taking off, quality already, in addition to the fact that I'm not running at the native resolution that the game itself is running at, which in resolution mode is 900p, in frame rate mode it's 1080p. So that's pretty much it for this video. I don't think that I'm going to very often be putting my voice in videos. I just wanted to do it for this one real quick because this is a better video in my opinion with a voice. And I missed that ball, and it's a perfect place to end this off at. Move out my way. Thank you. And alright, see you in the next video.